alligator. That's right. I have wrestled with an alligator. I done tussled with a whale. I done handcuffed lightning, throw thunder in jail.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. Social Connected 360, episode 11. We are here. We're excited. I got a wonderful, wonderful guest today. She's all the way on the other side of the states, and she's a wonderful, wonderful woman, strong woman, military. CEO, I believe. We'll get all into that. But before we do that, please, please, please subscribe. Show us some love. We'll show you some love. And, obviously it goes back and forth. Today, our sponsor is going to be GK United LLC. They are a credit repair company. So we are excited that they are with us, sponsoring this episode and another episode. I know it's something that we all struggle with, our credit. We're kind of afraid of it sometimes, but GKUnitedLLC.com. Check them out. Wonderful, wonderful credit repair company. They'll help you out, get some of those things off your credit so you can get those houses, you can get those loans, okay? We're also giving away some books, credit files. You can find them on Amazon, but we'll be giving these away to some guests that follow our show. Some of our guests are always on our show, so you'll be directly put in the hat, and we'll be giving these away. And this is a wonderful book. I only read a little bit, so I'm not going to lie. I didn't read the whole thing yet, but there's some good information in here, so we're excited about that. But let's get to it, man. Episode 11, someone that I seen on LinkedIn. We connected on LinkedIn, and right away, your nickname, Sister Soldier. I was like, I got to interview her because I didn't even, of course, you get on LinkedIn and you could see everybody that sees your stuff. But when I saw that your nickname was Sister Soldier, I was like, she's either a soldier in the community or a soldier in the military or a previous soldier or both. So by all means, Wanda, how you doing? How's everything going?
I'm doing well. It's awesome. And thank you for having me today.
So, and we're happy to have you. So tell me about this Sister Soldier. Tell me a little bit about.
Sister Soldier is who I am. It's what I do. And it's just me wrapped up in, it's just who I am. Of course, I'm a veteran, Army veteran. I served 21 years in active duty Army as a human resource manager. And so now I'm literally doing the same thing after I've transitioned, and that's helping veterans to transition into the entertainment and media industry, particularly women veterans and their families. So we work in creative arts, and I help them to really build their skill set so that they can work remote and, go out there and do their thing.
That's fantastic. And again, this is why I love Socially Connected and just any podcast, or I know you have a show. We're going to talk a little bit about that later on, but this is why I love these type of things, because we get to learn, we get to see other people and be like, man, what knowledge can I get from you, and what knowledge can I give to you? And I don't think, and especially now with COVID-19, it's very difficult to do all those type of things, right? So with podcasts, with shows like your show, it's just wonderful that we're able to connect this way. But let's take a step back and let's talk a little bit about your life, if you don't mind. So tell us a little bit about Sister Soldier, the younger Sister Soldier. Like before you joined the military, like any struggles there, anything that you wanted to share with us on that, family?
Well, younger Sister Soldier. So I've always been the type of person to go after what I want. I make a plan and I set out to do it. I set my aims and I literally just plan it out and make things happen. So I've always been that type of person. At a younger age, I used to be joned on it. Family called me spoiled, but my question was, how can I be spoiled if I'm doing what it takes for me to get where I'm going? Nobody's handing it to me. I grew up in Southern California, not too far away from Pasadena. So I'm a Cali kind of girl.
Oh, I love Cali. I was in Cali last year for the first time.
Oh, beautiful, really?
Beautiful. For the first time in my life. I'm 41. Never been to Cali.
Yeah, it's to live for. So I'm a Cali girl, and I grew up around not far from Hollywood, Beverly Hills. So my eyesight was always on that. My high school was filled with kids who their parents were actors and musicians and things like that. So I grew up around that atmosphere. And yet, Luis, I felt like it was such a distance for me to obtain it. Because what I realized is that they inherited the Porsches and the Mercedes that they were driving to school. And I wanted that. I wanted to know, how did they get access to that? How did they, I want to have that. I'm around it. It's one thing to be around that and not be able to just really have it in your hands and possess it.
Yeah.
And so it always was something that I just aspired. I wanted to, because I'm a creative. And back in high school, I realized my school was the type of school where we had like automotives and things like that, photography, sewing, home economics, and all of these other things, these different trades that we could kind of play around with to see where our interests were. So I took all of those classes because I wanted to know what it was that I enjoyed. Photography was my favorite. And I never knew that that's what was going to guide me for my future. And because of the type of school that I was in and my friends having, parents who were in the industry, I just always kind of had a desire to learn more about that. And because I couldn't access it through inheritance, I decided, well, that's a far-fetched reach for me. So the nearest thing that I could do is join the Army.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
That was a guarantee.
Yeah.
That was a guarantee. Absolutely. But the funny part about it is, while I was in high school, I also became a cosmetologist. So I went to college and high school at the same time, so that I could get my cosmetology license. And I received that and wanted to join the Army. And they told me, you have to, we hire people for hairdressers, so we don't need you to do that. So I had to choose a different field. And that's how I ended up coming in at human resource management.
Amazing. Like you could tell, you could feel with you just telling us, your story, you could feel that hunger, right? That hunger to want to do something. So being in that environment, it could either be counterproductive or it could be productive. So growing up in that environment where that's what you see, that's why I say, like, here in Allentown, Pennsylvania, we have what they call as a waterfront. It's really like a riverfront, but they're redeveloping. And what I've said to folks that are saying, and again, gentrification is happening all over, right? And I'm for, inclusion in that gentrification. Yeah. But I tell folks, well, if young folks can see that and see all those condos and all the stuff that they're going to put there, they could aspire to either own it, live there, run it, be a CEO, to aspire to get to the point where you could afford to live there, So your story is like, it resonates with me, because I think a lot of us that grew up in that environment where we didn't have everything that was, at a hand's reach. Well, I can go here, I can get this, I can, whatever. Or I'm 16, I'm 15, I already have a car, I just got to get my license, right? So that definitely resonates with me, and I'm sure with all of our listeners, most of our listeners who have struggled with that, But I can tell that with that energy, I was going to ask you, so how did you transition over to the military and you get into human resources? And so how does that, does that become a passion for you?
Yeah. So I wanna allude to something, because you brought something up in my mind as I was thinking about my youth. And after taking that photography class, I find myself, even today, I love cameras. We built a camera from a box. So And then we went into to develop it with the film. We went into a dark room and developed it. So it definitely wasn't the digital age. It
Yeah, the
wasn't
black
the
room.
digital
Yeah, I
age.
remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So we built a camera out of a cardboard box. And I was so intrigued that I had the ability to create something out of a cardboard box that would literally take photos. I thought that was something that only Kodak could create, you
Amazing.
know? And when I realized that I was able to create a camera with a cardboard box and take photos with it, it just became a passion. So even today, I carry a camera no matter where I am. Everywhere I go, I carry a camera. And I realized as time went on, that was a pattern for me. And so I wanted to start following that passion.
Mm.
And while I was active duty, I would not only capture pictures of everything and everybody, I just kind of had this PR person inside of me, you know? So I'm doing HR, but I'm also capturing pictures and just capturing the moment everywhere I go, setting up events and organizing and things like that. And that became the fun part of the job. The other aspect was just the surprise that the service members and the command, everybody had from attending the event or, helping to guide them. I'm a career counselor by choice and by trade in the service as a human resource manager. And serving the soldiers became my passion, you know? And it was finding that way to give them some type of inspiration in the midst of everything that we were doing. So if it meant taking a photo of them while we were out doing PT or at an event, a birthday event or something of that nature, and building a relationship with them, that's where my passion became on fire, you know?
Yeah, and again, I can relate with you completely because now in my government job that I work at now, that's exactly how I find that happiness. So, I mean, you see me on LinkedIn, I share a lot of stuff. A lot of the stuff that I share, I create, and you're right. It's like it's an outlet, and not only that, it documents and it's history. So you can look back and say, "Man, I remember this moment," or "I remember that moment," and I think. I mean, obviously, we all have cameras now. We have cell phones, right? So everyone could be doing that, you know.
Yeah.
So I can relate with that. I mean, completely, 100%. It's just a wonderful thing. My brother actually, Alex Garcia, he does professional photography. I mean, just phenomenal. He does weddings and just the way that he can pull that light and shoot on full on what is it, full manual or manual and just pull that light and understand every aspect of that camera. I have so much respect for all of you. I shoot I shoot a lot of video, so I'm not a photographer, but I still have to try to pull that light as well. And then when you start talking about like the frames per second, I mean, that's even when you start slowing the camera down, now it's even playing even more with the light. There's so much going on there. So, but yeah, I mean, photography is something and documenting it is extremely important. And so and just to stay on that topic, so how did the soldiers relate to you? Like, were they like, were they accepted to that in the beginning, or is this something that they just expected?
Oh yeah, it became a part of who I am. They knew when I came, I had a camera.
Yeah.
So if someone forgot the camera or if they weren't able to get a photographer or something, don't worry about it. She has it,
Yeah.
And so at the time it was Johnson. Johnson has it, So it was, they would just call on me to do the PR work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and the thing is too, and you know this, you've done 20 some years in the military. I'm right there behind you. I did 7 and then now 13 in the reserve. So I'm almost retired.
Nice.
But it goes so fast. And I have pictures from when I went overseas on my first deployment in the Navy, and it was right after 9/11. So we didn't hit a lot of ports just because of the safety and they were just trying to avoid a lot of ports because of 9/11. And so, but we still hit like 6, 7 different countries. The deployment before mine, they told me stories that they were hitting 13, 14 in 6 months ports, so, but my point in all that is I wish I took more pictures. We, like you said, you built the camera with the box. I remember going to CVS. This was early 2000s, and getting the box and getting, like, and just taking them, and then another box, and then we'll take them to CVS or Rite Aid and have them develop. But it's so important, and I know that I would have appreciated it if I had a Johnson that would have documented some of my stuff.
Yeah.
Because we do take that time and those moments at times for granted. And photography and videography can really help with that and the memories. So, but let's fast forward. So let's look at the current day. How are you doing? How's your family doing? Current day. I mean, is everything okay with the family?
Yeah, so everything is fine. Everything is fine. I have two grandsons now, and
Wow.
one of them took his first swimming lessons today, so that was nice to watch him. My husband
Wow.
texted me and was talking about how he didn't know whose heart was beating the fastest, his or my grandson's.
Wow. Wow.
So things are well. Yeah, it's going well. It's adjustment to getting used to this COVID, and we're working our way around it. And I'm sure that there are many people who are still trying to find their way, feeling their way through this process and seeing how they can connect with their family. One of the things with me is, again, I shared I care for my mom.
Yeah.
So the thing is like, how do we make this work? How do we maneuver? And yet it still works, And I think it's the determination that you have in a relationship and what you want to, we just have to be determined. We have to know our level of commitment when they talk about relationships and family, and how to deal with things like this when they happen. And so how we're going to connect with family, that's important.
Yeah, and the human is us as humans. We adapt to so many different things, whether it's health problem or health issues or family problems or working out, or whatever it is, sickness. And I think COVID-19 has really taught us to really adapt to a lot of different ways of doing things. So, but I'm glad that your family's doing good. Let's take a step back because I got an interesting question for you. And let's just be real. I like to be as real as possible on my podcast. So being an African American woman in the military, how did or serving in the military, serving for the military, how did that feel? How was that struggle? Because I can give you a little insight when you give me your answer, and I'm going to be as real as I can. I'm still in, but I have to be careful. But yeah, so how does that feel?
There's two sides of that. So during the era that not like it was that long ago, but the era of the time that I was in, it was a twofold experience. I was just sharing with I think it was my sister like a couple of days ago on how when I worked, so certain positions that we work in, right? There, as a human resource manager, at one point I worked in the MEPS, and I was the operations NCO for the MEPS. So I ran the floor of the MEPS, making sure that everyone got processed, their thumbprint, were interviewed for their entrance. And my commander at the time was a female. Well, I had to wear my dress green uniforms. Now, I had just, before my arrival to the MEPS, I had had a divorce. Okay. So to keep my mind occupied and strong and focused, instead of me going, my thing is when I start to go in the direction that's going to lead me south. To keep upward, I have to occupy my mind. I have to use that energy into something positive.
Listen
So
up,
my
people.
way of
Listen up, people.
yeah. So my way of doing that at the time was to not, because we were secluded from a normal base. First, I'm taken away from my environment of my peers, running every day. That's a different, that, you know, it's like an inch by inch thing that stress begins to take its fold, because a new norm has to be formed. So now I'm not only just newly divorced, I'm in a city and not on a base where I had the normal daily connections with the unit, where we're unified, running PT and working together consistently. We all come in on our own. We have our own time schedule. It's like a real civilian atmosphere. So on top of that stress, even though it sounds fun and it became fun after a while, initially it wasn't. So on top of that, I had a commander who didn't like the way my uniform fit. She was a Black female. That's what I didn't get. She was a Black female.
Oh, wow.
And I wore my uniform. I worked out every day. That was what I was going to say. I worked out every day to keep myself occupied. So Sister was a little bit buff.
Yeah. That's good.
I'm glad to say I can boast on that one. I was a little bit tight. And so my uniform fit well. And I had it 1 inch above the knee, because we're required 1 inch above the knee or 1 inch below the knee. So, or 2 inches below the knee. So I had it 1 inch above the knee. It fits so well to where she thought that, because I had that, it at the time looked like a little pencil, right? Hello. So she thought that my skirt was short. She thought my skirt was short. She called me into her office, and she thought it was going to be an embarrassing moment, that she was going to give me this Article 15 because I was out of uniform, quote unquote. And she literally measured my uniform skirt.
Wow.
And so I knew I was one of them, you know, I know the regulations. So I'm going to, if I'm going to wear it the way I want to, and it's going to be within regulation, and you won't be able to do anything about it. And so when she did that, I knew what I was dealing with. So that was one experience. The second experience that I really did, that really stands out to me, is that my last duty station, and the ideas that first of all, it wouldn't let me. I knew I'm a fast tracker, right? I became E7. 71 Lima E7 at my 12th year, or my 10th year, I was picked up.
Wow.
And by the 11 and a half year, I was promoted.
Wow.
Right. I was actually pinned, went to school and everything. So by 12 years, I was promoted to E7.
Wow.
So
congratulations. That's for people that don't know, when she means fast tracking, I mean, she got to that rank faster than a lot of people. A lot of people. I mean, most people finish E6 when you're talking about enlisted, and then E7 is when you start getting to the pinnacle of enlisted, and then E8 and E9 for those that don't understand. But fast tracking at 12 years, yeah, you're rocking it. You're rocking it. I can see some struggle there.
Well, I always made a plan. I always made a plan. I set my sights on what it is that I want. And what is it going to take for me to get there? And what do I need to do? Where do I need to set my path? Even me, my whole career, I was in control of my career.
Listen,
I was in control, besides God, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
so I put my request out there, and I made the plan, and he saw to it that it was fulfilled.
Yeah. Hard work. So you get to it. So these gentlemen didn't like the fast tracking, though.
Yeah, they didn't like the fast track. So the ideas that I would come up with, I developed a training program, because I saw that our unit didn't have a training program. And I'm big on training, because I think that people need to know in order to have clarity to have success. So I created a training program. And so then I also designed the logo, gave them the tagline. This was all before I was actually taking business courses at the time. And so I designed all of this. And do you know, I ended up having to have a surgery and out for 30 days. When I was gone, he slapped everything together, put his name on it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yes. Put his name on it, took the TDY on my behalf, and went to do the training that I was supposed to go and train the group for, and yet never mentioned my name,
Mm.
never mentioned anything. And when I was about to depart the unit, didn't even list it on my
Wow.
evaluation.
Wow.
And so to me, they were just doing everything, a little bit about that. I was injured. Okay.
Mhm.
And so, and while I was away on that 30-day leave,
Yeah.
my doctor decided to just assign me to Walter Reed.
Oh,
So then he was required to put give me a early performance.
mhm.
And they thought that they would be able to hold me back from being assigned to Walter Reed.
Mm.
But I just want the viewers, the listeners to know that no one has the highest authority over your health, your well-being than a doctor.
Mm.
So no matter when that doctor writes with the stroke of a pen, what they are prescribing, whether it be to transfer you to another unit, no one has the authority to change that.
There it is.
So they were so upset because
Oh,
they were actually trying to discharge me because I wasn't well enough to perform my duties
mm.
as far as PT goes because of my injury.
And that's a struggle, man. Like you go and you serve your country, do all these things, and I'm sure you had some wonderful commands and some wonderful leadership
Oh
too.
yes,
So that's like every organization, but there's so many inner struggles, right? So who's got the biggest, like who's the bigger one? Like, they're this one struggling, this, and then you have the enlisted, then you have officers going at, like, high ranking officers, high ranking enlisted. I mean, I could imagine, I did 20 years and we'll talk about that when I'm done. But yeah, I mean, it just saddens me. So does that transition you over to wanting to help people as far as what you're doing today with the strategy work that you're doing?
That's a part of it. Where I really came into passion of what I'm doing today is when I first came in and I was assigned to the PSC. So I've always worked at the personal service company level and
Mhm.
working in the records and the promotions, all of that area and the orders and assignments and things like that. And so when I got out, I realized that what after creating my nonprofit, I realized that veterans needed assistance transitioning. And in my eyes said, that was no different than what I did, helping them while they were active duty to get their assignments and to get their training, their orders for their training, take care of their families before they left to make sure that they were situated and then make it to their new assignment. So I took the skill set that I have and knowing what the transition needed and applied that. And then next thing I knew, it just kind of led to not having a large enough platform to share with them as having a nonprofit.
Mm.
And my thought process was to use YouTube, but the man upstairs that I know said that wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
the
yeah.
next thing that I knew, I was having conversations about me having a television show. I had a producer that had came on and decided to guide me through that process. We produced the show and boom, I was on television. So it's helping people transition their careers and understand that our physical capability, because again, I was injured. This is where that came in at. our physical capabilities doesn't hinder us from being able to be what we want to be. We can create whatever we want. As long as we have our mindset, you know, we can have that mind, the mind, like Lou Rawls used to say, the mind is a terrible thing to waste, because
Absolutely.
because it's the key. It's the key. It's the key.
Absolutely it is.
So regardless if we have a missing limb, if our mind is working and we can speak it out or write it out, we can create whatever we want. So I took those things together because I physically was no longer able to perform my physical duties in the job that I was trained for. I had to recreate myself. And because I had structured my career in the military to set me up to be a salesperson, I wanted to sell real estate. So in my 10-year mark, I set out, what path can I take to be able to be skilled enough to sell houses when I get out of the Army? So I applied for recruiting. I was already in the MEP, so I saw how that worked, and I applied for recruiting because recruiting was going to make or break me. And I realized that if I knew how to sell someone to join the military, then I can sell anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I was great at my game. And it wasn't a game, it was literally helping people change their lives. And I fell in love with it because I was, you know, taking people who had dreams and helping them reach their goals. I'm still in touch with some of my recruits today, you know? And so it just means a lot to me to watch someone go from being in one spot all the way, you know, from just like a baby
That's so
being
true.
born. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true.
You know, and then growing up, you know.
Yeah. Well, and that's how I, you know, it's funny you mention it because that's how I, that's how I felt when I joined the Navy. Like I went from mom and dad working. I got out of high school. I graduated high school, barely graduated high school. I was struggling, just because you know I was that kid. I was the kid that just didn't give 110% at that time. But I was working two jobs. I was going to go to the community college and I go to actually I took the ASVAB for the Army, and I just for some reason I stepped away, never followed through. I passed, and then so like a year later I let the Navy know that I was interested, and that's how I felt. I felt like a little kid leaving and going away, and my mom and like seeing my mom walk away. Like you know, you get out of boot camp, and my mom drove me to Norfolk. I was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia, my first command. So my parents drove me there 6 hours, and they dropped me off at the pier. And I'm looking back, and they're leaving, and I'm looking at this ship, like, oh my god, what the heck did I do? What did I do? Right? What the heck did I do? No, I want to go home. My mom, like my mom's cooking, you know, and but yeah, you're so right, man. And it's so cool that you still stay connected with those folks, because I wish I would have stayed connected with my recruit. I think it'd be cool to meet that person right now. I don't know who it is, but that's awesome. So tell us about SheVet. How does it come up? How do you come up with? I know that's your show, right?
SheVet Inspires.
SheVet Inspires.
Yeah.
So obviously, when we can all assume that woman, veteran, but how does that come about? Because I'm really big on that. I know that there's probably a little story behind that. There might be a story behind that.
So I mentioned I have a nonprofit, right? So in the beginning of my nonprofit, I started out with these meetings, and I'm great at coming up with names, and I wanted to celebrate women veterans in all that we do, especially the time frame that we're just starting to really be recognized for our service and owning it. And at the time we weren't coming out, and we weren't identifying ourselves as a woman veteran. And I just wanted them to know that they were special. I started working with some large corporations that were wanting to celebrate them as well and uplift the woman veteran. And I had to come up with a name. And I was like, you know what? She's a veteran and she's beautiful. And so therefore She Vet Inspires came out.
Yeah, that's dope. I knew there was a story. I knew there was a story behind it because you're creative.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Well, I
She's a
love the
veteran
name.
and she's beautiful. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I mean, it's just for me. Whenever I see either a brand or you know something that is associated with something like this, and I'm like, man, how did that? Like, I want to ask you. You know? That's why it's good marketing too. It's good marketing. So She Vet Inspires. Now I looked at your website. My government job, we do some of this stuff, but this is a good way that I'm doing it. Just perusing on the internet. Who you are, you're very established. You host some virtual training. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I saw that on a website.
Yeah, so the virtual training is project management. So we have project management. Also, I'm big on technology. Technology is where we're all headed, right? And so I decided to combine the two of my passions together, and that's media and technology. So because my company, She Vet Inc. She Vet Media is a media company where we do productions, we do, just film and to help and a lot of marketing to help people get their word out. So She Media Tech is the recruiting portion of my company. And so to prepare women veterans for the technology area as well as where the economy is going, we provide project management training, and it also adds agile. So I'm not sure that most people are aware the difference that having an identifier of being certified as a project manager or associate project manager can have on their income. It can guide it upward to a six-figure income just by having that skill. Now, this is the one thing that vets are equipped with because we manage projects our whole career.
Absolutely.
Our whole term. That's what we do is we manage projects. The problem is when we don't understand the terminology. So that's where the gap is. So I figured out, because I'm a human resource manager and I work this realm, I am well aware on what the gap was. So I set out to fill that gap, but I also set it out to where I can enjoy it. So I'm in media, and it's much needed for project managers in media. So that's where the virtual training goes. And so we're actually about to start a new session. It's ongoing, but it's a project management. We start at the basics of project management, teaching how to use project management for as a consultant or a remote worker. And
wonderful.
yeah.
No, that's wonderful. You know,
stability and income.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
It causes stability and income. It's a way to secure your future, because employers, not only are employers, but small business owners are needing this understanding to work in a remote workforce and remote environment.
Yeah. And again, I think if anything, the military has taught both of us and many of us that serve the military is that you got to move with the times. You can't stay stagnant. So it translates right over to the civilian life and what you're doing. Obviously, trying to help folks, remind them and training them, and that this is where our country is going, or this is where our world is going, and we need to get there. And you can help them get there with the virtual training, or even one day, once COVID is settled down, we can do some conferences, some seminars. and really just rock it, on that angle as well. So
Mhm.
so I have two more questions. One, so how do you feel um, the state of the woman is in our country today? Like, do you feel that women are getting to a point where they're leveling off with men, or how do you feel that is in our country? You think we're heading in the right direction?
I think we're headed in the right direction. As far as leveling off with men, I'm not sure if that'll ever happen.
Mm,
I'm not sure if it'll ever happen because there's resistance there. And to be quite honest, it's looked at as a whole. It's not looked at. We may level off in some areas, but then there are other areas that we just won't. It just won't
yeah.
balance. You know, and I'm okay with that. Just give me my lane and let me soar where I am,
Mm-hmm.
and give me the opportunity.
Mm.
That's
Well,
the
you're gonna
thing. I
rock it.
think that's what we're asking for is the opportunity. I don't want to be compared to the male counterpart all the time. Look at me for who I am and what I'm capable of doing. I
Mm,
think that's where most women in the military are seeking to find our own identity,
mm,
because for so long we joined the service and we had to put on the same uniform, quote unquote, and we were compared at every level as a whole to the male counterpart.
mm-hmm.
And there is just no comparison when it comes down to endurance, to strength. And yet we are expected to meet that.
Mm,
And we expect to meet that, you know? And so when we look at it in that perspective, it becomes nothing but a competition.
mm, yeah.
And that is hard to shake off when we exit out of the service because we've been so competitive just so that we can be seen and
Mm-hmm.
be heard, be recognized, be respected for who we are. And I just want my lane. And I want you to respect me for who I am, for what I can do, and allow me the opportunity to do what I'm capable of doing and some.
Mm. I asked that question because I think it's important that, I mean, you're very experienced. You've been through a lot. You've accomplished a lot, and I think it's important for younger males and females to hear that, and all of us really. I mean, even me. I'm not excluding older people, but I think it's
Yeah.
important that we all hear that, especially coming from a strong woman that has accomplished a lot. And I think that you know you're you're someone who matters, and your voice matters, and I need to hear it. We all need to hear it. So one more question, and we'll call it a night here because it's been a great conversation. We'll bring you back, or maybe I can go on your show. So
Yeah.
one piece of advice that you give Sister Soldier at 19, if you could.
So I would say follow your passion. Don't listen to the naysayers and pay attention to the small things that you love to do and just follow it. Don't allow the cultural myths to impart on your future.
Mm,
You know, hold on to it like that camera. Love it and just let it become a part of who you are. Embrace it because that's where the passion is. That's where your gifts lie, and just follow that, and it'll take you far. It'll take you far.
I love to ask that question because not that we all wish we could give that advice, but there is a Sister Soldier out there right now that's going to listen to that piece of advice. And I
Yeah.
think it's important that we understand that there are so many of us out there that we can relate with, and that need to hear that. So thank you for that. You're such an inspiration. Where can people find you? where can people find you, either on the internet, or if they wanted to get in contact with you, they wanted virtual training, they need Sister Soldier's advice, something. Where can we find you?
SistahSoldier.com. That's Sistah, SASISTAH, Soldier, SOLDIER.com.
All right. Wonderful, wonderful. I know I connected with you on LinkedIn. You're very professional. You're very established. It's an honor to have you on my show. We're going to do this again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know, to be able to have men and women on my show, I want to have more women because I think it's important for me to keep learning and to learn from everybody. So you're the only second female. I only have 11 episodes, but I want to continue to level that playing field because I think it's important that, you know, we learn from everybody and everybody's voice matters. So thank you again, Wanda, Sister Soldier in the house, episode 11. Thank you for watching. Like I always say, subscribe, share this episode with someone that needs to hear it. And like I always say, stay connected, be safe.